Coming up on KPBS Evening Edition, San Diego farmers had a prosperous year as food prices shot up. The news comes despite a bug infestation, shortage of labor, and rising water costs. And the partisan stalemate is over. Congress has reached a deal on the payroll tax extension for now. This is KPBS Evening Edition. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Dwayne Brown. President Obama congratulated Congress today for ending its partisan stalemate and reaching a deal on extending a payroll tax cut and long-term unemployment benefits. The president issued a statement moments after House Speaker John Boehner announced House Republicans were reversing course and accepting a 2-month extension agreed to by the Senate and supported by the president. Mr. Obama says the deal is good news just in time for the holidays and the right thing to do for American families and the economy. He thanked Americans who pressured Congress to get it done. Alan Burson will retire as the Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection next week. Burson, seen here in a 2010 interview with KPBS, is a longtime San Diego resident. He says he turned in his resignation to President Obama today. Burson was appointed by the president last year. His last day will be December 30th. During his tenure, there has been a decrease in apprehensions of those trying to enter the country illegally and an increase in drug seizures. Burson's replacement hasn't been named yet. The owner of an iconic San Diego restaurant and catering company, the French Gourmet, was sentenced today for employing illegal immigrants. Our Fronteras reporter Jill Replogle was there and joins us from the newsroom. Jill, will the owner of the French Gourmet serve any jail time?
No, he won't be serving any jail time. He has 5 years probation. The bakery manager at the French Gourmet was also sentenced to 3 years probation.
And tell us a little more about this case.
Well, it started with an audit of the restaurant's employees, and this was in 2004, I believe. And some of the Social Security numbers came up as not matching the people that were there. And so the government continued to investigate and found later that the bakery and the restaurant had been employing about 91 unauthorized immigrants, and many of them knowingly. So they knew they were undocumented, but they continued to employ them anyway.
And are convictions like this against employers who hire undocumented workers common?
They're pretty rare, but they've been going up. The Obama administration has made a point of focusing on employers rather than the workers themselves. And so 193 convictions took place this year of employers, and that includes managers. And that's up 100% from the first year of the administration. They've also paid a lot more in fines, $6 million this year.
Fronteras reporter Jill Replogle. San Diego County saw strong gusty winds today, up to 40 miles an hour along the coast and 60 miles per hour in the valleys and mountains. The Weather Service expects even stronger gusts tonight, gradually tapering off tomorrow afternoon through Saturday morning. A high wind advisory is up until early Friday afternoon, with the strongest winds expected in the valley and mountain areas. Nearly all home markets in the U.S. will lose value this year, including San Diego. The housing firm Zillow.com says the housing market is expected to lose nearly $700 billion in value this year. San Diego will lose $9.7 billion in real estate value. Analyst Gary London says we hit the bottom of the bargain market. He expects to see a turnaround next year. Zillow says L.A. market values dropped $75 billion. San Francisco lost $29 billion and Riverside $14 billion. But there is a silver lining here. Losses in 2010 actually exceeded $1 trillion. And this year, 9 markets, including New Orleans, Pittsburgh, actually gained value. Pack your bags and your patience, but not your gifts if you're flying out of Lindbergh Field tonight or tomorrow. That's because all items must go through security first. The good news is Santa's helpers will be there to provide some relief.
Pull the tape off. You gotta do something. I have ribbon, too. Want some ribbon?
The holidays can be a pretty stressful time for travelers, but those bearing gifts are getting assistance from airport volunteers like Liz Heyman.
Now, once you go through security, with your package, you can't wrap it, so we wrap it for you.
That includes ribbons and this wrapping paper, designed by kids from the new Children's Museum. It features San Diego holiday scenes, including the snowman on the beach.
We work for the airport. We're called the ambassadors. There's 350 of us, We do all kinds of things in the airport, answer questions, work on shifts, and here's a lady that needs a package wrapped. Put it right down here, I'll help you.
The service is free, and last year, volunteers wrapped about 2,000 gifts. Katie Jones with the Airport Authority says they're on pace to do even more gifts this time around.
People are starting to count on the service and remember to bring their gifts unwrapped through security.
Those lights are motion activated by people picking up their bags here at baggage claim at Lindbergh Field. Over the next 2 days, 100,000 passengers or travelers are expected here. That's a 25% increase.
We've got extra staff out to help. We had carolers this morning. We're wrapping gifts, so we're really trying to make it as smooth and safe as possible.
Now, you're advised to arrive at least 90 minutes early if you're flying tomorrow. The peak travel times are between 6 and 8 in the morning, noontime and around 5 o'clock. The free gift wrapping will end at 7 Friday night. San Diego police say investigators have determined skeletal remains found last month in the ocean off the coast of San Diego are those of a 28-year-old man. He's suspected of fatally shooting a self-employed taxi driver in La Jolla in September. The California condor has been named Bird of the Year by the Audubon Society. The prehistoric bird was added to the endangered species list in 1967, but an aggressive captive breeding and release program has revived the population from 22 birds to 394 condors. KPBS video journalist Nick McVicker takes us to the Wild Safari Park for a closer look.
They're pretty much the most spectacular bird you're going to see, especially when they fly. With a 9.5-foot wingspan, they are breathtaking. They are an old species, but as long as the environment will support them, they'll stick around. It's not like a species has a time limit, like an age. It really doesn't work that way. When you change the environment too fast for them to adapt, species will go extinct because they cannot adapt to the new conditions. And man has a habit of changing the environment very quickly, and we have to be careful because we could fall prey to the same problems.
Water, labor, and bugs. Those are three of the big issues this year for the San Diego farmers. Amitha and her guests are talking about that at the Evening Edition Roundtable.
Agriculture ranks fourth in San Diego's economy, bringing in about $1.6 billion each year. But local growers are facing stiff challenges, from skyrocketing water prices to pests and labor shortages. Joining me to talk about all of this is Eric Larson of the San Diego County Farm Bureau. Eric, how much have water prices gone up this year, and what effect has that had on local growers?
Well, they've gone up double digits this year, and virtually every water district is making increases. The problem is it's double-digit increases on double-digit increases from previous years. So we've seen pretty much a doubling of prices over a decade of time, and that's made it very, very tough, really squeezed the bottom line for the farmers.
And so are growers cutting back on what they're growing? Are we seeing land that's simply not being used anymore?
Unfortunately, that's true. The county is reporting that just in 1 year, from 2009 to 2010, we lost 5,000 acres of avocados. That's a lot of our production. I'm a little worried that when the reports come out for what happened between 2010 and 2011, we'll see a similar number for that. So the growers are just deciding, I can't make a profit, and they're just turning their water meters off.
Is this going to turn around? I know that there has been some talk with the Metropolitan Water District to charge farmers less for the water that they use. Is that still on the table?
Well, I can't really say there's been conversations with them, but they're very well aware that the agriculture community is suffering. We used to have a differential price that came from the Metropolitan Water District, and we lost that. And so farmers now are paying the same price as residential users. But we're going to go back and ask again. And we think the situation is very dire, and we don't think the district will want to lose the farmers as customers.
What percentage of the land has been just taken away because of these high water prices? Do you know?
Well, I don't know what percentage, but we have about 2 or 3 years ago, we had 65,000 acres of irrigated agriculture in San Diego County, and that number is going to be down 5,000 or 10,000 acres since that time. So what that percentage is, it's actually pretty substantial, and we're a little worried that land won't go back into production.
Switching gears slightly, I know farming communities from Alabama to California have been deeply affected by the slowdown in the number of undocumented workers that are crossing over the border from Mexico. What has been the impact of that slowdown on San Diego's farming community?
Well, it's interesting you ask that question. I just had a conversation this morning with a grower out in Palma Valley, and he's very concerned there won't be enough workers to harvest his orange crop this year. So he's looking for strategies. What do I do? Where do I find workers? And we're hearing that time and again. Last year, very difficult time getting the avocado crop harvested, difficult time getting the strawberries harvested. So yes, there's a definite shortage of labor out there, and growers may have to plant fewer acres.
Are we seeing Americans apply for these jobs at all, given the fact that the unemployment rate is at 9.2%?
Well, you'd like to think that they would, but they don't. The reality is that foreign-born workers are the ones who come to the farms and do the work. We have a shortage of workers in San Diego County right now, and they had a massive shortage in Alabama earlier this year, and the Americans aren't showing up. So the jobs are there, but no one's showing up to take them.
So what percentage of the workforce is immigrant labor? Is it 99%? What is it?
Well, it's a large percentage, probably 60, 70, 80% are what we could call immigrant labor. And we'll be the first to admit a large portion of those work with forged documents. So we have this fairly unstable workforce. So anytime there's any kind of an enforcement crackdown on labor, we're apt to lose workers.
What about pests? Have there been infestation problems this year, or different infestation problems than there were last year?
Well, farmers are always having to deal with insect pests, and unfortunately the traveling public brings these bugs into San Diego County. We've got a real troublesome one right now called the Asian citrus psyllid. The insect itself is not that damaging to citrus trees, but it carries a disease. The disease is in Mexico, but we don't have the disease yet. So we're really fearful that when the disease gets here, that insect, which is getting established in San Diego County, will move it around all the trees. And what happens is when a tree gets the disease, it dies. There's no recovery for it.
I want to end this interview on possibly some good news. There is a growing demand for locally grown food. Is that benefiting our farming community?
Oh, absolutely. We got 3 million mouths to feed in San Diego County, and why shouldn't they be buying local? So there are opportunities. We've seen a lot of farmers going to niche markets, and you drive around the county now and you go into some of the regional chains or the farmers markets, and there's an abundance of locally grown products. So if the consumers want them, they're here, and if the consumers will buy them, we have farmers that will produce those products for them.
Eric Larson, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll look back on the top military stories covered by KPBS reporters this year. And it's impossible to talk about education this year without talking about the budget. We'll hear how cutbacks have affected San Diego schools. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
Tonight on KPBS at 8, locate San Diego's little-known official Christmas tree and see how the holidays were celebrated in San Diego in years gone by on Ken Kramer's About San Diego. Then at 8:30 on California's Gold, join Huell-Hauser and the Ecke family for a tour of their amazing Poinsettia growing ranch. And at 9, travel through Germany, France, and Switzerland to explore Europe's amazing Christmas markets. That's all tonight on KPBS. Tuesday at 10 on KPBS. KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
It's been a big year for the military with two major events. Thousands of soldiers, sailors, and Marines are coming home from war. Some are reintegrating into civilian life. Many need health care, and all of them need jobs. And now, for the first time ever, gays can openly serve in the military. Both events impact San Diego life. We have a thriving military community with about 100,000 active duty personnel and their families living in our midst. That's not to mention the civilian Department of Defense employees. KPBS reporter Allison St. John covers military affairs in the county, and she joins me now. Allison, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Let's talk about the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. How big was this in the military?
Well, of course, it's really a revolutionary thing. However, it actually went into effect this year in September. And in some ways, by the time it went into effect, it was already sort of a done deal. I think the big drama was in December last year when it actually passed. There was some pushback from the military, specifically the Marine Corps General was a bit reluctant. But once they were on board, it seemed like it just moved very fast. And by the time it actually passed in September, I went down to the LGBT Center and everybody was celebrating, but they were actually talking about what's the next step. They were already moving on. You know, we want to be able to marry. We want our spouses to have benefits like everybody else does.
You also did a number of reports where you interviewed different people, including a commanding officer. What was the reaction within the military that you received?
Well, General James Amos was here last year, and he did express a certain amount of reservations about how it would play out in places where people were deployed in Afghanistan. I think he was concerned about, you know, whether it would affect people in harm's way. However, he really came around, and quite recently he's spoken out in favor of it and saying how well it has been implemented. Then there was the head of the Marine Corps Southwest, Major Anthony Jackson, who up at Camp Pendleton was totally in favor of it and said it's about time this country did this. You know, we really need to be giving everybody their due, and he had no qualms about, you know, dropping that policy at all.
The other big military story, of course, this year, end of war in Iraq. Tell us how that is impacting our community.
Well, I think it's impacting San Diego tremendously in the sense that we have more veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan than any other county in the nation. So they're in our midst, and those that are leaving the military when they come back have probably been on many deployments and are attempting to adjust. It's a big adjustment to go back to the civilian world. I visited one program, the Reboot program, where they are really almost reprogramming people who come out because the military programs people to go in with boot camp, and it's not just changing a job, it's a whole cultural shift they have to make. Then, of course, there's the fact that they have to get a job. But the other aspect is that there's a lot of people coming back with wounds, either visible wounds or invisible wounds. And you know, I'm particularly interested in seeing how the invisible wounds are being dealt with. And I think there's a lot of medical research going on as to how to treat PTSD and TBI, traumatic brain injury, because that's something that you don't see when you see someone. You know, they may look perfectly fine, but they may be suffering from invisible wounds that are, in some cases will heal right away, and in other cases take a very long time, and in other cases never heal. So there's a lot of very interesting research on how to heal those wounds.
You mentioned jobs. We also saw at least one round of military layoffs with the Navy. I know also, I believe it's the Army announced a round as well of 8,700 layoffs.
Civilians.
So how are we going to see this playing out in 2012?
Well, this is quite a big issue in the sense that, you know, we have almost 100,000 active duty in this community, and the San Diego Military Advisory Council has put out some studies suggesting that about 1 in 5 jobs in San Diego depend on federal dollars, which encompasses not only active duty but all the civilians and all the defense contractors. So as these cuts come down the pike, it will have a significant effect on our community. There'll be more people looking for work. Some potentially well-paid jobs may be eliminated. It's something that this city has seen in the past, and it looks like
in the 1990s.
That's right. You know, it's the cycle is coming around again, and I think everybody is sort of waiting with bated breath to see how that affects us.
Allison St. John, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Cutbacks in state funding have dramatically affected both K-12 and higher education. KPBS reporter Kyla Calvert joins Amitha at the Evening Edition Roundtable to talk about some of the year's top education stories.
Budget cuts dominated the conversation about education this year, but there were other stories to cover as well. And KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert is here to tell us about some of those pieces and cuts, of course. Kyla, it would be impossible to talk about education without mentioning the budget. How severe were the cuts this year, and how did they affect San Diegans and schools?
Well, San Diego Public Schools started the school year this year with about 1,000 fewer employees. Just over 400 of those people were teachers, and the rest were support staff. And so I think that that really speaks to sort of the magnitude of the cuts that they were dealing with. Another big thing that happened was that as part of an effort to reduce the budget, they were considering closing or consolidating more than a dozen schools around the city. And we went to one of those schools, Cadman Elementary, and sort of heard about what had been going on there and an effort to really turn the school around a little bit, increase enrollment, and when the time came for board members to vote on those closures, people showed up at the board meetings. They sort of fought for their schools and talked about the great things going on, and the board members kind of caved and said, okay, well, we won't close those schools. So that was sort of a big story that really didn't come to much of anything, but it took up a lot of our time in San Diego. And then the other big thing that happened, I think, that was really affecting people was tuition increases. At the University of California system, their tuition went up by almost 10% this fall. The students at Cal State, including San Diego State, their tuition went up by more than 25% this fall, and they'll see another tuition increase this coming year of 9%.
So even as tuition went up for San Diego State students, they hired a new president who got a significant pay raise over his predecessor. What was the reaction to that?
Right. When Elliot Hirschman came in July, his salary was about $400,000 plus some other perks that the university presidents get. And that was about $100,000 more than his predecessor, Stephen Weber. And there was a lot of uproar. That salary increase drew attention all over the state. Governor Brown sent a letter to the CSU trustees saying, we really need to be looking for candidates who are concerned about public service, who don't need these large compensation packages, but at the same time, Hirschman's salary is right about in the middle of where public university presidents are across the country, and we're in a very high cost of living area. So there were really people on both sides saying that this is fair compensation, and people saying, we're reducing the number of courses offered, we're increasing tuition, and yet we're going to really, give more money to administrators. So.
Yes, I remember that being as a significant controversy. And speaking of controversies, you worked on a big investigative piece about school earthquake safety. Remind us about that.
This summer, I partnered with the education reporter at Voice of San Diego, and we looked at what is called the AB 300 list. And AB 300 is a bill that passed in the late 90s that required the organization that oversees school construction to go back and sort of review all of the plans that they had on file of school buildings built before some significant building code upgrades in the late 1970s. And they came up with a list of about 9,000 schools across the state where basically they told school districts, we don't know if these buildings are safe. We don't know if they meet sort of the requirements set by this 1978 standard. And so what you have to do to determine whether or not they're safe in the event of a major earthquake is perform inspections. And by and large, across the state and San Diego County, those inspections haven't taken place. In San Diego, there were about 300 buildings on that list. About 200 of them this summer had not been inspected. And as it turned out, about half of those were in the South Bay Union Elementary School District, which is a very small school district, but it had 94, 98 buildings on that list. And just in November, actually, their Board of Education voted to do those inspections. And they have a contract with a structural engineer. The preliminary inspections are going to take 2 or 3 months, and it's going to cost the district about $85,000 to make sure that their buildings are safe for kids.
Very quickly, were those inspections a direct result of your pieces?
They got a new facilities manager, and we had dealt with him. He was in Encinitas before, and so I think that I don't know that it's a direct result of our investigation, but we definitely, contributed to his awareness of the AB 300 list.
Kyla, thank you so much for speaking to us.
The creator of a desert artwork known as Salvation Mountain has moved to a long-term care facility in El Cajon. That leaves the future of the candy-colored mountain uncertain. Artist Leonard Knight has been building Salvation Mountain out of adobe, straw, and paint for the last 30 years. The colorful 3-story mountain with the words "God is love" on its crest sits in the Imperial County Desert east of San Diego. So how do you feel about a proposal to ban cell phones while driving with or without a hands-free device? More on that story in the public square up next. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
I'm Gwen Eiffel. On the next news hour, the booming high and low-end retail markets and the shrinking middle. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
The American people have named PBS
the most trusted source of news and public affairs
For the 8th year in a row.
Trust. The American people have spoken.
Thank you.
Where can you learn the history and uncover the treasures of our region? Right here on KPBS. First, on Ken Kramer's About San Diego, discover the little-known stories behind the things and places in San Diego we see every day. Then on Crossing South, host Jorge Meraz explores Baja, Mexico, and gets to know the places frequented by the locals. Get to know the people, the food, and the customs of our neighbor to the south, only on Crossing South, starting January 5th on KPBS.
Welcome back to the Public Square on KPBS Evening Edition. Inattention can be fatal. More than 3,000 people were killed in car crashes last year because of distractions. The culprit, cell phones. Despite bans on using handheld phones or to talk while driving, many motorists are actually ignoring the rules. Some drivers continue to text, check email when they should be watching the road. Now, the National Transportation Safety Board is calling for an outright ban on driver cell phone use. They're suggesting no talking, even using hands-free devices. But is the recommendation too harsh? Will states go along with such a ban? And if they do, will drivers abide? We want to hear from you. Would you agree with a complete ban on using a cell phone while driving? Tell us why or why not. You can weigh in on the conversation by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and, of course, you can email us. And here's a recap of some of our top stories tonight. President Obama congratulated Congress today for ending its partisan stalemate and reaching a deal on extending a payroll tax cut and long-term unemployment benefits. And the Weather Service has called a high wind advisory tonight. It's expected to gradually taper off tomorrow afternoon through Saturday morning. The strongest winds are expected in the valley and mountain areas. Nearly all home markets in the U.S. will lose value this year, including San Diego. San Diego lost nearly $10 billion in value in 2011. And you can watch and comment on any of the stories you saw tonight on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night. We leave you with a look at the forecast.